So over the past few years, I have seen hundreds of portfolio websites from junior and senior engineers, and there are some clear differences on what makes a good one and what makes a poor one. Today, 100% of my focus is to ensure that you can create the perfect portfolio to get a job as a software engineer. In order to do this in the most effective way, I asked my network over on LinkedIn to share some of the links to their personal portfolios, and I would review them during this video. So hopefully that's helpful to you, and even though this might not be your site, please take the review and the advice that's given and apply it as best you can to your own portfolio website. Let's jump right into it with the first portfolio page that I'm going to review today. This is John David Delgado's. Thank you again to everyone who submitted their portfolios over on LinkedIn. I really appreciate that. If you want to have your portfolio included in a future video, or when we talk about GitHub or personal projects, anything like that, go ahead and follow me over on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to submit your portfolio. Well, let's dive right into this one. I really like the name here. It's really clear, really bold, and it's really the only thing that you see on the first page. That's helpful, helps me know that I'm on the right page when I'm actually looking for the right person. Let's dive into the About Me. If I'm being completely honest, first impressions, this is a little bit too long. It's really unlikely that I'll be able to spend more than 5 minutes on anyone's portfolio page. So a long About Me is usually something that I will skip through. If it was maybe half this size, bigger text, I would go for it. The contrast is a little rough too, so I would ensure that your contrast is either white on black or something similar to that. Contrast in general is something that's super important on websites, especially with text, and it's something that gets overlooked for those of us who are engineers. I'll pop something up here to show you the difference between really good contrast and really bad contrast, and it's pretty clear when you're going through a website what makes it good and what makes it bad. Let's dive right back into this website. Okay, check out some of my projects. That's nice. I really like that. But if we're talking about some of your projects and I only see one, I don't know that I would really want to see that. So let's just see, this is my favorite project, or you can say this is one that I'm really proud of. But if you're going to say some of my projects, let's include maybe 2 or 3. Okay, diving down into the U.S. Army work. Okay, is it work history or is it U.S. Army? Those both look like titles to me, so that's a little bit confusing. This clearly seems to be a resume portion of the website. There's something I really like at the bottom. I'll talk about that in a second. But really, right here, contrast is not excellent. It looks like blue on blue. And then you've also got this title up here, U.S. Army, bigger than work history. So if the U.S. Army is related to all these positions below it, I would just put that United States Army right into the title of each of these or somewhere in a subheading, just so that work history can be the main title of this section. So the thing I want to talk about that I really do like is that you have your technical skills very clear with the icons, and it's not overwhelmingly large. React, Node, Material UI, and MongoDB. That's what I do. That's what I'm good at. I love seeing that. Sometimes people get a little bit crazy with how many technical skills they put on their resume, and I do think that takes away from it overall. So this is well done. Education, University of Maryland, V-School. That's a full stack development boot camp up in Utah. That's a really good one, so definitely one that I would look into if you're looking into that kind of thing. But thank you for showing that. That's helpful. Overall, I think it's a great site. So thanks, John. Thanks for submitting, and hopefully that's helpful. Oh, one last thing that I just noticed. You have a recommendation here on your nav bar, but it doesn't do anything. So either that means you don't come recommended, which is obviously not ideal, or I would just hide that from the nav bar. If it's not going to have any content in it, it's not necessary to have. Okay, let's dive into the second website we're reviewing today. This is James Kaleka. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but thank you, James, for submitting. First things first, name's pretty clear. Photo right there, I really like that as well. Pretty good, going right into it. Contrast, obviously, black on white is super high, so you obviously took that into account, which I appreciate. The name's also your URL, which was the same with John David, so both of those get full marks for having their name in their URL. It's fun, it's nice, it's not an absolute requirement for your portfolio. I wouldn't say that you have to have your name in your URL, but it is nice if that's possible, and it's always fun to have your own name as a domain. So the first thing I see when we go into this is full stack web developer. I do think personally full stack web developer is overused. For those people that may have done a project in full stack, exposure to full stack and being a full stack engineer, I personally think are different things. I know there are lots of discussions about what that means and looks like, but for me personally, I think it's a little bit overused. This is, I believe, your bio section right here. Musician, cat lover, video game enthusiast. One of the things you want to ensure that you do when you have a portfolio website is that you're memorable. I like that there are some quirky things on here, things that make you unique. I just don't know that they're things that I would remember. Like musician and video game enthusiast, I'm going to probably see those on at least half of the portfolio websites that I see. So maybe something more specific, like a specific game you're really good at, or your gamer tag, or something fun that might help me remember you. That would be awesome there. Okay, let's dive into the skills section. So this is something I mentioned in the last one. When you have too many skills, it takes away from the skills that you do have. In this case, looks like we've got React, JavaScript, Node, HTML5, CSS3. Okay, let's talk about those for a second. HTML and CSS are pretty much a given for anyone who's a web developer. I know it takes time to learn, and I know it's difficult, and you want to display as much as you can on this section because you're really proud of everything that you've learned. But I will say focusing on simple stacks and the things that you're really focused on and that you're best at will help you find a job, because employers are looking for specific things. If I'm hiring an engineer, I'm looking for someone who's skilled in React, or someone who's really skilled in back-end development, or is really good at APIs, or knows Heroku inside and out, or Google Firebase. Any of those things that you've worked on that you're really, really good at or you enjoy, I would focus on those especially, and not necessarily include things like HTML and CSS, which I would assume every web developer or any engineer that believes that they're good at web already knows. I don't think that's a requirement. So I'm not going to dive into the actual projects that you've worked on. It does look like these are clickable though, which is awesome. I see Heroku app, Netlify, and Netlify. That's good. I think these are great to have on here, super important. I would say maybe we'll do a video in the future. So if you're interested in that, let me know in the comment section. But we can talk about things that I like and dislike about different projects that people have built. I have quite a few opinions, so maybe we'll go into that in a future video. But overall, I would say this is very simple, James. I like it. It's essentially your resume with a few more links on it, which is good. Yeah, so keep it up. And if you get anything from any of the other reviews, go ahead and add that into your personal portfolio. Okay, the third one we're talking about today is Cody Snell. Thank you again for submitting. This is awesome. Let's dive right into it. Okay, tons of personality right here on the site. I can already tell right off the bat. Bold colors, really big, really in your face. Available for all of your website needs. Awesome. I would say, and I know some of the submissions here were for freelancers versus for actually trying to get roles or full-time roles as an engineer. I'm not exactly sure which is which, but I'll do my best. This one right here, I will say the first thing design-wise, I see some really sharp angles on this background, really strong lines, but then there's really heavy rounding on your actual image here, and it looks like rounding on all your boxes. So I would say go with one or the other. If you want to have a really stark contrast, strong lines, strong angles, go for that. If you want to have rounded corners, a little bit softer feel, you can go for that. Combining both does feel a little bit more amateur, so that's something that I would avoid. A couple of nitpicky things, because I nitpick on these sites all the time. That's kind of what I do when I review these sites. A first letter capitalized in an email, I'm just not a fan of that. It just seems like an autocorrect mistake. So take that for what it's worth. If you feel differently, then do whatever you want to do, but that's my personal opinion. You also have your personal phone number, I assume, right here on the website, which is bold. That's super bold. If you want to go that route, you're absolutely welcome to on the public internet, but I don't know, it's not something that I would personally do. Or maybe set up a Google Voice number. I think those are free, and then you can screen calls a little bit easier, but hey, you know, it's there. It's available so people can call you and hire you, I guess. So if we talk about the skills section, HTML5, CSS3, instantly I'm not really focused on those because, again, I assume everyone who knows web development knows HTML and CSS. JavaScript, React, and Node. Okay, so that's a pretty simple stack. React and Node are super common and super popular. I like the focus being on those that you're good at and that you're specialized in, so great job there. Okay, let's talk about your personal projects. I know I mentioned I'm not going to dive into any personal projects, but I do have strong feelings about clone websites, and it does look like the LinkedIn clone here as well as the Tesla clone, that's something that you've done a couple of times. I would avoid clones just because I'm going to assume as an employer, and this may not be the case, but I'm going to assume as an employer that you just copied the style sheets from the existing website and kind of manipulated those, maybe built a few divs or HTML elements to make it look the same. Obviously, you're using their exact same images, you're using their same icons and logos, so I don't know how much actual effort went into that, and it's not likely that I'm going to assume very much did. But maybe that's not the case. I'm just letting you know from my perspective as a potential employer, that's something that I would see as not necessarily as valuable in your portfolio. If you do want to go the route of including clone websites, try and change something up. So very common these days, so they'll take a modern website and they'll make it look retro, or they'll take a website and they'll make it look, monochrome. Cool things like that are kind of fun, and they do show a little bit more mastery of web development. Okay, I do also see a few games down here. These are Python terminal games. Turtle is super fun to use. I really enjoy it. Python's great. It's really cool that you have these, especially with the plain GIFs. I think that's really nice. And it kind of shows that you're a little bit more scrappy of a developer. You like to dive in and get things done and build fun stuff. So I think that's really cool. This is a huge value add on your site. I don't know how much value you're getting from this contact me box. It's one thing that I'm kind of on the fence about. I know I've heard one way or the other from different people. I personally don't think it's that useful as a contact me box. It depends on what you're going for, but in this case, if people are coming here, they're probably coming here because they came from your resume or your application. They're so unlikely to use this contact me box. They'll probably just email you. I don't know that it adds any value having it here. Okay, let's dive into the fourth portfolio website. This is Brad Herr. I think I'm saying that correctly. I'm gonna refresh this because I think it had a cool, it's got a cool little loading screen there. That's fun. One thing I would say right off the bat, first impressions, design-wise, already looks great. I really like that. I like the clean lines. I like the little light bulb flashing in the background. I don't know that I like the fact that your name is right above this light because it kind of makes me stare at it, and it's just the flashing. I don't know, maybe I'm being brainwashed to remember your name or something. But in this case, I would say just bump it up to the top. Your name can be here. It would be contrasted well against the black, and then the light would be kind of fun. If we scroll down, whoa. Everything's going nuts. So this is one thing I would keep in mind when you're creating animations is that you kind of want to make sure they don't go crazy, but animations are fun. It makes it a little bit fun that things pop up. Not exactly sure why it's popping onto the next line. Maybe it's a sizing issue or responsiveness problem, something to look into. This is already too many skills. So I've talked about this a couple of times, and this is another one I want to continue to hit home. If you have too many skills on your list, the likelihood of me taking one and saying, oh, he's a specialist in this. If I'm looking for a role in React, for example, it's going to be my common example. But I'm going to say, okay, how well does he really know React? Because based on this, it's telling me you know React just as well as you know Next.js and version control. Version control is pretty standard. Amazon Web Services, Bootstrap 5. Like, what is your specialty? That's what I want to see. If you can talk to me about your specialty, and maybe if you really want to display other things that you're technically skilled at, show them as other things you're exploring or other things that you've worked with in the past, you have exposure to, but they're not all your specialty. That's going to be one thing that I continue to hammer home. Okay, so let's jump into the About page. It looks good and it's really short. So this is one that I would actually potentially read. So a full stack developer with a great extent of knowledge. And okay, let's grammar that really quick. Great extent of knowledge is not something that I think anyone would normally say. I would rather read something that sounds like you're telling me what you're good at. Anyway, web development technologies and processes. I have tremendous passion to continue to learn and aim to ship neat and modern code and solve everyday problems while incorporating my past experience in the blue-collar workforce. Still diligent work ethic, resourcefulness, communication skills. Okay, that's interesting. Personally, I think this is very copy-pasteable. I guess that's not really something that people say, but what I like to think of is, could this apply to literally anyone in the stack of resumes that I'm trying to sift through? And if it can, then it doesn't add any value to make you unique. You want to be unique in this process so that people will hire you and they'll be interested in learning more about you specifically. I love the concepts here, but I think they need to be more specific and maybe talk about jobs that you've had in the past or things that you've done that help you build that work ethic or things that you've tried to create, whatever that ends up being. If it's copy-pasteable, then it doesn't add much value to your site. I guess by that I mean if you could copy it to anyone else's resume, then it's not going to add value. Okay, you've also gone the phone number route. Super bold. I like bold, I guess. It's not something I would do or recommend, but I'm not going to stop you. Definitely, if it's something you're confident in, you're more than welcome to do that. Maybe more people call you to hire you. Resume, we've got LinkedIn, we've got GitHub. I'm not going to do LinkedIn or GitHub reviews right now in this video, but maybe in the future. So let me know in the comments if you want to get a review of your GitHub or LinkedIn. You want me to talk more about how to improve those. Let's talk about your coding project work. These all blend together. I don't like that. I wish there was some sort of gap in between these so that I could kind of see the differences because they're just so distinct in their design and styling. I would want them to be separated. Netflix UI, again, it's a duplicate. Just putting it out there. Duplicates don't provide a lot of value to me. This looks really cool. Smart Brain, I don't know what that is. Image face recognition. This is really cool. I would probably put this one at the top because it's unique and it's different. It's something that people may not have. I'm actually not going to go into the personal projects on this video, but maybe that'll be a future video. One of the things, though, I do want to highlight right here is he has a demo. That's something that's huge for employers in general. I am almost always going to use the demos. so many times I've gone to a personal project website and I've been hit with like a login, and I'm not going to create an account to your personal project just to test it out. It's just not going to happen. Maybe in like a final round interview, but as far as junior developers and trying to get these roles, I don't think it's necessary. Just make sure you have a demo where it auto fills that password or login information, and we can move forward and actually see what you've built. Okay, contact information again, phone number. I don't know that that's your actual phone number with 2 area codes. Maybe something to look at. But cool. Address, again, really bold, just throwing that out there. Name, email, message. I don't know that people are going to actually use this contact form unless it's spam, but maybe that's working for you. Let me know if it is, but it's not something that I've seen success in. Okay, one thing that I thought was a red flag when I first saw it, right here at the bottom, you have your all rights reserved. It does say Brad Her, which is awesome. Okay, as long as it's your name and it's, you know, related to you, that's fine. You would be surprised how many times I've seen personal portfolio websites that are built off of templates. And then at the bottom it says the template name right there, and it's clickable to someone else's website. That is a huge red flag. So just make sure that you're not going to be recommending someone else's site on your personal portfolio. I think that's quite a big red flag. Anyway, great job, Brad. Very well done. Let's continue on to the next one. Okay, so thank you, Kashan, for submitting your portfolio website. I do think, just based on my initial impression, I first thought that it was a portfolio website, but I do think this is more of a freelance style pitch. So that's totally fine. It's just going to be a little bit different of what you're looking for. Let's get started. Super clean. Looks great. I would say this is really, really cool. The animation here, the alignment's not great. So that's something I would potentially look at fixing. But full stack web developer, provide web and mobile app development services and complete technical solutions for businesses of any size and nature. That's a little too generic. There are companies that are doing that kind of thing, but those companies have, you know, hundreds of thousands of employees and they're massive consulting firms. So I would say, what do you actually specialize in? And it's not everything. So you say your best skill is in React, JavaScript, and MongoDB. Is that React Native? Is that React? So you say mobile apps, you say websites. I would be very specific about what you offer or what companies you offer that for, and then let the companies try and fit themselves into that form so that they can work with you. If they really want to work with you, they see your work and it's excellent, that's something that you probably want to highlight as much as you possibly can. So I see what I do here: mobile app, web app, UI design, software maintenance, strategy, business experience. A lot of these are a little generic: software maintenance, strategy planning, business experience. Not many people build an app and they go and Google who can maintain my software. So you want to make sure you're talking about the things that are specific to what you want to do. I do like the animations here and the colors are really clean. Design-wise, this website looks great. Let's talk about your portfolio here. Once again, let's go back. You talked about, you know, global companies. You're working with anyone and everyone of any size, but I only see 3 recent projects. And I don't know what these likes mean, really, the 750, 600, 630. If those mean something, then awesome. If they don't, I would probably just remove them. They're interesting, not really aligned, but again, if you don't have 30 projects to highlight, I don't know that you necessarily do want to say that you're working with anyone and everyone of any size. You probably do want to specialize that. I like the reviews. Okay, so here we go. This is Fiverr, so probably a lot of this is coming through Fiverr or other freelance style websites. I would say it's good. Yeah, all of these that I see right now are Fiverr, so I would say let's focus down on something that you do especially well and make that the thing that you want to highlight. If you don't have photos for any of these people, a generic photo is not helping at all. It's just kind of taking away from the review itself because it's so large and in your face, but it's not giving you any information. I like that you have a blog on here. That takes a lot of effort, so that's not something I'm going to recommend to every single person looking for a job or a role in software engineering, but it's really cool. It kind of does show that you have some expertise here and that you're trying to provide that 2-minute read, 3-minute read. So there's probably about 400, 500 words. And then a contact page for Hire Me. So this is the exception to the rule. I would say normally if you're going for a job in software engineering, you really don't need this type of contact box or a form. But if your goal is to get freelance work, then yeah, that makes sense to have this here. You want people to send messages as easily as possible if they find you on Google search or something like that. Available to freelance, part-time, permanent work, only Anglosphere. I don't know what. Oh, and there's a mouse over question mark. Very, very nice. I didn't know what Anglosphere was, but now I do. Super clear. Very, very well done. This looks good. You got your contact email right here. The animations are great. Design is great. I think very, very well done overall. The only thing that I would slightly change, Kashan, would be focusing in and really dialing in exactly who you service with your product, with your software engineering. and talk more about that than so many generics. Okay, let's dive into the next one. Rodney Todd, thank you for submitting. First things first, looks kind of like James Bond. Pretty cool, pretty slick, all black background, light text. The text, though, does look to have a gradient on it. That's not something that I would recommend. Let's see. I like the contrast here, but the text is just so small. It's going to be a little bit hard to read. I might pick a different font. Again, you just want this to be as easy as possible and minimize the friction as much as you can. There's a little bit too much friction here for me to want to read this. Maybe my eyes just aren't that great, but I'll give it a shot. Welcome to my portfolio. Rodney Todd, software engineer. Sitting on my couch browsing the App Store and thought it would be interesting to build my own app. Ever since that day, I've had a love for web development. That's kind of a cool story. Kind of like that. Love the easy times of coding. I was frustrated. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that it, maybe just make it bigger so that I can read it a little bit faster and easier. This button, the contact me, it's kind of nice that it gets bigger, but the text on it is so small, it just kind of gets lost inside the size of the button. And we talked about contrast right at the beginning. We'll talk about contrast again. These buttons, you can't see them at all. So they need to either be white on this black background or some other color that works better for contrast. Okay, talk about your projects. Looks good. I can't read that. Maybe just go with logos or something. This is a landing page, it looks like. Pain is on effective to the point workout app. Is an effective to the point workout app in the age of millions of apps on the web range. Again, I would just change the font. It's really hard to read. I think it's a really pixelated font, especially when it's small. You have live site, GitHub repository. Maybe make these links buttons instead of just clickable links. It just adds a little bit more professionalism to the website. Skills. Oh, and that disappeared. That's kind of fun. So you can focus on the skills when you're in this section. Okay, React, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. I would just remove those. Node, Mongo, MySQL, not bad. Express, Mongoose, Bootstrap, Material UI. Okay, it's helpful. I think that's useful. I would just simplify maybe a little bit more to your specific specialties. I don't think it's too many. HTML, CSS, again, I almost always remove. But very well done. Thanks, Rodney. Okay, the last one today. This was just recently submitted over on the LinkedIn post, but Siona, like that, pronounced like Fiona but with an S. That's super helpful, especially with people that don't necessarily have names that are easy to pronounce. It's really helpful for an employer, specifically if you're going to bring you in for an interview. I would really like to know how to pronounce your name because I always feel bad if I can't pronounce it or I try and go right, butcher through it. And it's really nice to let the employer know how to pronounce your name. So that's great right there. Many people call me CO for short, hail from London, have a background in education, forensic science, and criminal investigation. Okay, that's super cool. I would probably put something development related in your initial bio, but it does give you a unique background, and that's something that I would definitely remember. So huge kudos for that. The text here on the About Me is awesome. It looks like this isn't the home page. So I wonder if, well, we'll start here. My path to front-end development came from a desire of more positive work-life balance. Unfortunately, work-life balance in software is not all that great, but maybe you'll find the perfect role. Lived, worked and studied in multiple countries. That's really cool. Travel is super awesome. This, I think, is cool. I like that you went with the icons instead of just text. That helps me. I know what I'm looking for. Visual Studio Code Editor, I don't know that adds a whole lot of value. API, just kind of generic. I see Netlify. I see React. SEO, it's just a magnifying glass with SEO. I don't know. Like some of these things I would probably trim out and make it a little bit more specific to the icons of the things that you're specialized in. Once again, I'm just going to say it, HTML, CSS don't add a whole lot of value. I see you've got your link down here, probably for your code base in GitHub, hosted by Netlify. Nice. I'm going to jump into the home page. I assume that that's where most people would go. For some reason, it took us to the About Me page. But hi, I'm Siona Natali. Front-end web developer based in Portugal. Super cool. I like that you have your work here. So is this your work or is your work over here on the nav bar? I don't know. It doesn't make a huge difference. But portfolio website, that's this, right? So I don't know that would necessarily need to go as a body of work on your site because that's this. I do like that you show the code, so I could be swayed one way or the other. Weather app, kind of cool. Vanilla JS, 5-day forecast, change color, daytime or nighttime. That's kind of fun. In the location of interest. That's fun. Let's see. Festival themes is a fun addition. I like that you're doing cool things. I think it's fun to add little Easter eggs into your projects. That's super great. If I go over to my work, it shows the same thing again. And then your contact me. This is a great contact me page. So I talked about not needing the form. You don't have a form here. Have an idea or project you want to build. So you're interested in freelancing as well. That's super good. I really like that you have these links really quick in here. And this text is super fun. That's something that I will remember for sure. It's a fun little font, and it kind of shows your personality with a font, which I think is really cool. Overall, very well done. So thanks for submitting that, Siona. Okay, so after having gone through all of those websites, I just want to say again, thank you so much to everyone who submitted over on LinkedIn. I really appreciated going through your websites. Hopefully some of my feedback was helpful and you can use some of it to make your portfolio websites just a little bit better. If there is something that you want me to go deeper into, please let me know. Feel free to leave a comment on this video, reach out to me on LinkedIn or anywhere, and we can dive into maybe a GitHub profile or LinkedIn, or talk about some of the personal projects, go through those and see what works and what doesn't. But let me know. I'm eager to talk about these things, and this is why I made this video, to hopefully help people out. So if it helped you, definitely let me know, and we'll see you in the next one.